I am the one and only Eagle Double T, and in this video, I'm going to be doing a comparison between the PlayStation 2 controller, the GameCube controller, and the Sega Dreamcast controller. Now, the way I'm going to do this is that there'll be several categories, and I'll mark the points down, and the first place winner of that category gets 2 points, the second place gets 1 point, and last place gets none. So let's begin. The first category is the joysticks. The Dreamcast joystick, the radius is good, it functions pretty good, but it feels a little cheap. I mean, the joystick kind of rotates, and your fingers, when they get sweaty, slide off really easy. And the trigger and the joystick seem to be a little bit off. Like, too far up. Like, the joystick is too far up. PS2 they're okay. I mean, they feel pretty cheap, but your thumbs stay on pretty good, and the top is pretty good. The GameCube, it's pretty much perfect. There's, like, no dead center. Now, it doesn't, like, push down like the PS2 controller, but it's really comfortable. Your finger never slides off, and it works really good. The first category will be awarded to the GameCube, following the PS2, then the Dreamcast. Round 2 will be Gamepad. Now, the DualShock 2, it's not really a gamepad, it's more like buttons. They're too spread out, and they just aren't very good, like at all, like they don't feel right. The Dreamcast controller, it feels more like a 3D gamepad, like it kind of dips in more than it should, which I find good for 3D games, but your fingers tend to slide off really frequently. The GameCube controller, it's a bit small, but your fingers don't slide off, and it functions really well. The Dreamcast does have an excellent gamepad, but your fingers tend to slide off. The GameCube's is great, but it's a bit small. So I'm going to award 1 point to the GameCube and the Dreamcast, while the PS2 gets none. Round 3, buttons. The Dreamcast, buttons are pretty good. They're like really weirdly colored. I mean, like usually like A would be green, B would be red, X would be blue, and Y would be yellow. But it's pretty weird. But the buttons they work fairly well. PS2s, they seem to be a bit flat on the surface. Like not more rounded like most buttons, but it's pretty good. I mean, it does serve the function fairly nice, and they're pretty good, evenly spaced out. The GameCube controller, the buttons function flawlessly, although the layout is quite different than the others. While I don't find this to be good with other games, Nintendo exclusives is really good for them, like Metroid Prime, and the button layout for its exclusive games are like really nice. I'm honestly going to give it to the Dreamcast, with GameCube coming in second. Round 4, other buttons. The Dreamcast just has a simple, start button, but it's a triangle, and it fits the shape of the controller. I think it's pretty cool. The PS2 controller, it has analog, select, and start, so it has more buttons, but they're like really like flimsy and like really rubbery. Like they're not very good. The GameCube has it's a very simple start pause button. It's pretty small, nothing special. You got the on and off switch for the wireless connection, so it works pretty good, but it's pretty bland. Round 4 is going to go to the Dreamcast controller, because it blends into the controller really nice and functions well as a button. I'm going to give the GameCube second, because while the PS2 controller does have more buttons, they're just not very high quality. Round 5, features. The Dreamcast controller has VMUs. They take a watch battery, slide into the top of the controller, and basically act... It's a mini screen. You can even take it out and play mini games on it, hook them together to exchange data, and there's 2 slots, so you can put in an additional memory card for 2 memory cards. So that is pretty cool, and that's pretty much it for the Dreamcast features. PS2 features 2 rumble motor thingies. because, I mean, it's dual shock, dual motor, so, I mean, that's pretty cool. More for precise controller vibration. The GameCube was the only controller of that generation to come out with a wireless Wavebird. The range is insane. The battery life is really good. I mean, I'd rate it above the 360 controller when it comes to battery life, and the 360 controller has pretty decent battery life. So, I mean, you had to adjust the channel, but, you know, the wireless feature is really nice, and the battery life is awesome. The GameCube's Wavebird controller, which is wireless, just can't be beat. I called it a tie between the PS2 and the Dreamcast because the rumble feature on the PS2 is great, while the Dreamcast has the amazing VMUs. Round 6, triggers. The Dreamcast controller has 360 styled triggers, so, I mean, that's pretty nice. I mean, they're great triggers, like the 360s, except, you know, the 360 kind of ripped them off because, I mean, this is excellent. But the bad thing is that it didn't have any games like Call of Duty to take advantage of the triggers, because it didn't have 2 joysticks, which was the reason that a lot of games weren't on the Dreamcast. The GameCube controller has a bumper, a single bumper, and then the triggers just melt into your hand. I mean, just right there. I mean, it's great. They work flawlessly. I mean, they're more like buttons that extend outward a lot. I mean, they're great. They're flawless. I mean, I like it for Call of Duty. I mean, I play Call of Duty on the GameCube, and I enjoy it. PS2 has 2 bumpers, which, you know, pretty good bumpers. But then they have these buttons, and if you hit them, like, down at the bottom, only the bottom goes down. If you hit them at the top, only, like, the top does its thing. So, the PS2's triggers really aren't that good. They're only, like, buttons. The GameCube's triggers are unique and amazing, while the Dreamcast are more like 360 triggers. So, the GameCube comes in first, Dreamcast comes in second. PS2 comes in last. Final round. Comfort. Let me see here. The PS2 controller, for smaller hands, yeah, it's a fine controller. I mean, if you like PlayStation, then, you know, it's a classic PlayStation controller. It's laid out okay, it looks good. But if you have bigger hands, like mine, that's where the problems occur. It is way, way too small. I mean, it doesn't fit in my palm like a 360 trigger would, or the GameCube, but it fits, like, way up here where my fingers are. So, I mean, it's really not that good. It's not very comfortable once you have bigger hands. The Dreamcast controller, it's actually pretty comfortable. Although, the triggers do seem to be a bit far back and the joystick a bit far forward. But other than that, it's a pretty comfortable controller and it's very uniquely designed. The GameCube controller is the most comfortable. And your hands just, like, melt right into it. I mean, with the triggers and, you know, the joystick. It takes a more 360 original Xbox controller layout with awesome button layout. Build quality is great. I mean, it's a very comfortable controller, and I don't get tired of using it after a long time. The GameCube is definitely the most comfortable, with the Dreamcast coming in second. Because while everyone is going to be going, oh, the DualShock 2 is the best controller ever, blah. Well, if you have bigger hands, no. No, not even close. So, with a score of 11 to 2 to 8, the GameCube controller is the winner, following the Dreamcast, with the PS2 losing. Please subscribe if you want to see more stuff about video game controllers. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and comment, but keep it civil. I am the one and only Eagle Double T signing off. Goodbye.